Hi, this is Daniel from Pain of Salvation.
And this is Johan from Pain of Salvation.
And together they are Roxette. Please watch Morow.
Tomorrow.
Or now.
Or now.
.com. No, it was all written afterwards, which has a very easy explanation. I decided very firmly while I was in the hospital that I was not going to make an album about the hospital stay. Because I had a lot of wonderful feedback and support from fans. And lots of them were actually saying, probably to give me some, I don't know, comfort in this severe passage of my life, they were saying that, well, at least you can make like a concept album about this afterwards. And to me at that point, that just seemed totally bizarre. Like, I mean, if you just look at it, you just like take the components and look at what you have. You have a prog metal concept album about flesh-eating bacteria. It just does not rhyme with what I want music to be and lyrics to be. I mean, Simon and Garfunkel would never have done that, probably. So I decided that no, I would not do that. But once I started writing lyrics, or like once I sat down with any form of creative mindset, I noticed that that's where I ended up. Like, not about the flesh-eating bacteria or the perils of death in the hospital, but more about the emotional spectra that you sort of like need to go through once you're there. Your relations to your life and your choices and your family and your friends, and also regarding music and like the reasons for making a band in the first place and what that means to me. Because as futile and worn out as it seems to be, you do sort of, it's not like you're getting new perspectives when you're in the hospital or when you face death, but it's more that you reassess the priorities that you already have, the ones that you had to start with. You look at them again and they become clearer. So whatever your priorities are, I mean, most of us know already how we should live our lives. We know that, well, you shouldn't put work in front of family. You shouldn't, like, you should focus on what you want to do in life, and you should spend time with the ones you love, and you should talk to the ones you love and tell them that you love them, because you never know when you're going to die. All of that stuff we know. It's just that it's difficult on a daily basis to live like that. You start out and you have all these perfect ideas of how life should be lived, and then just everyday life just gets in the way, and you have all these things and all these to-do lists of what you need to do, and you have so many things on those to-do lists that you start to lose all your perspective. And once you're in the hospital and you have nothing else to do, then that to-do list is boiling down to a very, very short list. And all of a sudden you can see again what the important things are. And those are exactly the things that you know are important. It's not that anything changes, really. You just have the luxury of being reminded of that original to-do list that you had when you were like 15 or something. And that's an important lesson. And I think, I don't want to wish everyone to be in the hospital in mortal peril, but you do get a refreshing look at that original to-do list. The good thing is that it becomes a concept that most people can relate to, regardless of what their personal experiences are. I wish that it had changed my life forever, but it's surprising how fast things go back to sort of like a normal grind again. Of course it has changed me, but on the other hand, like, so many small things in life has also changed me forever. Like, every day I live, will change my life forever. Um, it's just like after, I mean, this is 4 years ago now, which is odd because it doesn't feel like 4 years, but it feels already very distant. Like it feels like I can touch it. It's so close I can touch it, but it's already very distant, in that weird way that strong memories have. Um, I would say that it's a very important part of my life. I would not have it undone if I could, for sure. I'm in a much better place afterwards. So I guess it helped me. It helped me not to have a much changed life, because it was more like a reset thing. That's what I feel like looking back at it now. It didn't change my life as much as it reset the values that I already had. I was, getting the luxury of rewinding in a way to a simpler time, and when you had simpler choices. And I think that's the most important thing. It has made me be able to choose what parts of my life to change and what not to change. But I guess it's changed the lives of everyone around me too. Like, I mean, that was like for my kids and for the band and for my friends. It was everyone had a bit of a scare, for sure. So that was it. I talked a lot to Lars, who is like he's year by year he's just become like the to-go-to photographer for Pain of Salvation. He feels like part of the family, part of the crew right now. When it's time for new photos, he will like take his car, drive from Gothenburg all the way up to us, and we'll just have like a few days of just taking photos, and we'll talk on the phone a lot before that. And for this album, we talked. I'd been like, once I knew what the album would be about, I had all these ideas of, what could we do? I wanted to be photo based. That's what I felt strongly. Like, I'm so tired of this entire like the prog metal industry with all these, I don't know, fake airbrush, weird fantasies. I just can't stand it. I want photos, like good photos. That's like, to me, that's always been the best album covers I know is just a photo, but the content of the photo is either beautiful or it's interesting, or you go like, what? Like, either way, it speaks to you. So I strongly felt photos, like something that's real, something that's just like, this is what it is. That's what I wanted. And I talked to Lars, and we had all these ideas. And one of the things I had in mind was, because like in the backyard of our house, a special time of day, like 5 o'clock in the afternoon during the summers, you have the light coming across the fields. We have like a forest, and then a big field, and then we have the lawn, and then we have the house. And when the sun reflects over the fields, it reflects into the windows of the kitchen, and that will reflect back. So anyone who's in the front of the kitchen windows at that point will get this really nice warm glow from the back, while having the light coming from the fields. And I was standing there one afternoon going like, that would be awesome, like having, and I thought of something like tribal, again, something real, something physical. That felt really important to me after the hospital stay, like the physical, the true reasons for why we're here, in a way, like being together, and like, I don't know, something. And I pictured like maybe having fires or something, and then like a grown man that was being painted on the back, by a kid. And we had one shot because he was coming up this one, like we did the hospital shoot, and the weather was bad outside, and we were like, hopefully tomorrow it's going to be good, because that's the only shot we have, and it was raining. So we had to rethink. We were like, okay, what are the key components? We don't get the light, we don't have and we tried the entire view, and everything was just getting too small, especially on a CD. It's just like, So we figured that the back, the painting, and the kid. That is the key components in this. So I was spending the day while we were hoping for the sun to come out. I spent the day trying different shapes and everything, and I ended up with this sort of like semi-drawn sun that was not complete. It was like hope, but you didn't know it yet. It was sort of like an incomplete shape, but it was also beautiful, and it's sort of like being not complete. Simple enough to draw, and very recognizable. So, from that point, see how we did it. I painted it on Lars's back. So that was the first one. And then Johanna, my wife, would copy it from his back onto my back. And then Nim got to fill it in with his finger. So to start with, he could only like paint where it was already painted. We're like, oh, just keep painting the same places over and over again. So that was sort of like, they were like a me copying from a paper onto Lars's back. And I don't mean like copy like that, but just like looking at it. So it's changed shape a little bit in every step of the way. And then as we were standing there, and he painted it over and over again, the sun just broke out a little bit through the clouds, and we had this perfect sort of like in between rain and sun, and that sort of like you had, which is what I like with Pain of Salvation in general. There's this mix of strength and fragility. And I hope that we got that into the pictures, because that's what I felt, that we had this sort of like, from one point, a strong pose and someone dead set on something, but there's also sort of a sadness and a hope, and you feel, hopefully, that you're getting into a situation when you know something is about to happen. And to me, it's like partly a protection symbol and partly like a war battle symbol. Like, I will paint this on you as you go in to battle, or as you go into the rain, carry this sun with you, or carry this sun as a token of my love, because we don't know what's going to happen. Sort of like all of these things combined somehow. Baby, wrap me in silent gold. Once it was very clear that Ragnar was pretty much leaving the band and telling people that he got fired, then, well, I just like tried to not take part of that entire, like, it was like the weirdest Facebook explosion going on there with like fans on one side, and like I don't know, I just tried to stay out of it as much as possible, because I felt that it would not benefit anyone, not Ragnar either. So it was sad that things played out that way, and I'm still a bit confused. One thing he said before this, like he was really acting out on the tour we did, and one thing that came up towards the end of the tour, which I had no idea, was that he was feeling really disappointed that he was not mentioned in interviews enough. And I told him then that, well, I've mentioned you in every interview I've done. Like, I always talk about, you know, the way we wrote music, and, you know, but I'm not the editor. In the end, I cannot decide what they choose to focus on, and usually they focused on the hospital stay, because that is the concept of the album, you know, and I guess they just felt that was what they considered the strong point. So, and as you've noticed already, when I talk excessively. And so the interviews would be like an hour, 1.5 hours long, and what they took from that was not up to me to decide, and I just answer the questions. Basically, that's what I do. And he probably felt that I was not mentioning him in interviews because he was not in the interviews. I don't even read the interviews. I don't know. So that it's just like I just wish that he'd come to me and talked about those things. But you know, that's how things play out. But either way, I think that just the way things played out is proof enough that I don't think that things would have worked out in the long run. Even if this would have been worked out, we would have been facing problems further down the line because we have very different ways of communicating about problems. So, but what I wanted to say is that it's those few days was like a compressed and much easier version of the hospital stay because it was dark times, but also like hearing that you were like happy to come back and everything was a big joy. And so there's a very much a turn of events that I'm very happy about now because we have a totally different chemistry within the band right now. And I think probably fans and people can tell that on stage you can feel the difference. We're much more like one band now.
Are you true to me, oh you?
Either way, for me it was obvious that like the only person that would be able to like get into the band at this point would be Johan. So he was like the first guy I immediately contacted and like this is like sort of exploding right now. Would you be interested? Because I knew that like one of the main reasons for him leaving the band was family reasons, having small kids and everything, and he's in a different position right now. And we had been playing with and also with Johan Langell. We had sort of like a side project, and it was very easy for me to tell that things seemed different, like you had a different situation. So I called him up, and I guess you can take it from there.
It was funny because I had the feeling, not knowing what was going on really, but Danny called me up and he asked me if is there a possibility you could rejoin the band? And I felt instantly, yeah, of course, I want to do that, but I have to discuss it with my wife first, of course. And I just talked for maybe 1.5, 2 minutes that point, and then my wife looked at me when I hung up, and she was like, "Is that Daniel?" "Yeah, just go for it, man. Just do it." And it took maybe 5 minutes, and I called you up. I said, "Yeah, sure, I'm on." And I'm so happy to be back. It's part of my identity, my childhood dream.
Yeah. We're glad to have you back.
We have a really nice crew, and the band is, I think it's just awesome to be out on the road again, and looking forward to making a new album as well.
Yeah. It's so hard to measure because like back when we released the original, like the first albums, the record industry was a totally different industry. I mean, so many things have happened. I don't know the sales number for this album, but I'm guessing it's probably on par with the most successful albums from back then. But the record industry has been firmly going down every year. So if you look at how much less the record industry is selling in general, and the fact that we've basically stayed the same, I guess we just keep on getting more and more successful, but it's difficult to measure. Which also makes the entire music industry much more complicated these days, because back in the past, if you wanted to play somewhere, like say you knew you had fans probably in, I don't know, Costa Rica, and then your booker would be getting in touch with organizers in Costa Rica, and they would look at the sales. They'd look at, okay, so what are the sales? If we book these guys in this band, will there be a fan base to cover the expenses that we'll have? There was something they could go to look at this. Today it's much more difficult. Basically every organizer will have to take much more of a chance because there are no figures, no numbers to crunch. And that's the problem for us too. When people ask us, about what are your most successful places or regions, countries, difficult to know. First of all, it's easy that you will, we have good shows in Germany, but there are lots and lots of people living in Germany compared to Sweden, for instance. On the other hand, you can also look at, like, standing on stage. One thing you can measure it with is, where do people rock out the most? You know, where do you get most passion in return? But that's so different from country to country. Like, the different cultures are so, like, if you play in Sweden, it's difficult to get them to show passion, but they can still love it so much. Whereas when you go to Brazil, they're crazy. Yeah. I mean, if they like it, they will show you. And so that's not a good measuring point. And so you think, maybe I can look at, when we're on stage, what songs do they respond to the most? And then it's easy to think that Road Salt is our most successful album, because we have great response for that. Because they're good live songs. Like, Linoleum is a very good live song. Like, so many fans claim to hate the album, but when we play the songs live, they rock out.
Yeah.
And everyone loves The Perfect Element. But when we play The Perfect Element, people are standing like this. Because they love the song. They listen to it. Yeah. But from our perspective on stage, we're like, this is not flying. We're doing something wrong now. And then afterwards, people are going, love The Perfect Element.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Best version you've done ever. Like, oh, okay. Because you seem sort of like, well, we were listening. Okay. So it's difficult to know.
It's really hard. I had a guy in front of me before, like, it must have been in 2010. Quite big guy, standing like this, just in front of me. And he didn't move a muscle. He was like...
I've had that too, Jesus.
He even sometimes saw... It looked like he was disappointed or mad or something. He was like... And then afterwards, he approached me, and I thought, I'm going to be punched in the face now. He was like, man, that was the best I've ever had. The best show I've ever attended. Whoa! It's like, okay.
Well, how about showing us that?
It's so hard to tell sometimes. Yeah. Like, yesterday was fantastic. I had the guy in front of me, the guy in the wheelchair, with a big smile, and there were kids on the shoulders, like, It was like, you get a lot of energy.
Yes.
Oh, and Disco Queen is one of those water dividers. Because, like, lots of the crowd loves that song. But there are always a few, like, a handful of people. Every time we play Disco Queen, they're like, nope. And they sort of like, it's like one of the comedians said, it's not like they're doing it like the British way of just like, I don't like this, so I'm just going to sit this one out and you let everyone else enjoy it. But that's the type of song that when people don't like it, they feel the need to show it visibly to everyone, like a kid going like, I don't like carrots. Not gonna have it. No. That's literally what they do. You can just like see them, like you can spot them. You start Disco Queen and we get into the sort of like the high vocals and everyone's sort of like dancing, having a good time, and then there's like 6 or 7 just still points in the audience with people going like, I don't like this at all. It's funny. Food?